April 5th, 1933, a Wednesday. The morning started like any other morning in America. Men put on their hats and walked to work. Mothers cooked breakfast. Shopkeepers opened their doors. The radio played jazz. But by the time the sun set that evening, the definition of freedom in the United States had fundamentally changed. President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102, one sheet of paper, one signature, and with that, it became a crime for a United States citizen to own monetary gold. You heard that correctly. The asset that had been the definition of safety for 5,000 years was suddenly illegal. The government ordered every citizen to turn in their gold coins, their bullion, and their certificates to the Federal Reserve. In exchange, they were given paper money, $20.67 an ounce. If you refused, if you tried to hide your wealth, you faced 10 years in federal prison and a $10,000 fine, which in today's money is nearly $250,000. Think about the psychology of that moment. The people who followed the rules, the people who saved the safest asset, were the ones who were stripped of their wealth. The government took the gold, and then, just a few months later, they revalued it to $35 an ounce. Instantly, the government made a massive profit, and the citizens who held the paper money lost 40% of their purchasing power overnight. They didn't lose the bills in their wallet. The number on the bill stayed the same, but the value was siphoned away by a single pen stroke. You hear this story and you think, that was the Great Depression. That was a wartime measure. That could never happen today. My money is in a bank. It's insured. It's digital. It's safe. I am here to tell you that this is the single most dangerous lie you have ever been told. The events of 1933 were not a fluke. They were a playbook. And right now, in 2026, that playbook is being dusted off. The mechanism has changed. They aren't coming for your gold coins this time. They are coming for your purchasing power, and they are using the banking system to do it. You believe that when you deposit $1,000 into your savings account, that money is sitting there in a vault with your name on it, waiting for you to come back. You believe you are the owner of that money. You are wrong. When you deposit money into a bank, you are not storing it, you are lending it. Legally, the moment that cash crosses the teller's counter, it ceases to be your property. It becomes the property of the bank. You become an unsecured creditor. In simple words, this means that if the bank goes under, you are last in line to get paid. You are behind the bondholders, you are behind the derivatives counterparties, you are standing at the back of the line with a paper cup, hoping there are a few drops left when the faucet runs dry. And in the modern banking system, the faucet is always running dry. This is not a theory. This is defined in the United States Bankruptcy Code. Your deposit is a loan to a highly leveraged hedge fund that calls itself a bank. This is the banking trap, and today we are going to expose the 3D math behind why the banking system is mathematically insolvent, why bail-ins are the new threat to your life savings, and why holding cash in 2026 is the financial equivalent of standing on a train track while watching the locomotive barrel toward you. To understand the trap, we have to look at the engine of the deception, fractional reserve banking, or as it exists today, zero reserve banking. For decades, banks were required to keep a fraction of your deposits on hand. If you deposited $100, they had to keep $10 and could lend out $90. It was risky, but there was a buffer. But in March of 2020, quietly, while the world was distracted by a global health crisis, the Federal Reserve reduced the reserve requirement to 0%. Zero. Let that number sink in. It means for every dollar you deposit, the bank is required to keep absolutely nothing in the vault. They can take your paycheck, lend it out to a commercial real estate developer, lose it on a bad bet, and still show you a digital screen that says your money is available. It is a hologram. It is a ghost. The money is not there. This creates a system of phantom wealth. Simply put, the economy is awash in credit, but starved of actual capital. And this brings us to a terrifying economic reality known as the duration mismatch. In our parlance, this means the bank took your cash, which you might need today, and bet it on things that won't pay off for 10 or 20 years. Specifically, they bought government bonds when rates were at historic lows. Now, the economic tides have turned. When rates rise, as they have, the value of those long-term assets crashes. Why? Because no one wants a bond paying 1% when they can buy a new one paying 5%. The bank is sitting on massive, unrealized losses. They are technically bankrupt. Their liabilities, what they owe you, are higher than their assets. If everyone asks for their money at once, the illusion shatters. We saw this with Silicon Valley Bank. We saw this with First Republic.
But those were just the tremors before the earthquake. The fault line is running underneath the entire system, and unlike 1933, where you had to physically run to the bank to start a panic, today, a bank run happens at the speed of light. It happens on Twitter. It happens on an app. The collapse is instantaneous. But Greg, you say, what about FDIC insurance? The government guarantees my money up to $250,000. This is the second layer of the trap, the psychological safety net. Let's do the math. The FDIC has a deposit insurance fund. It holds roughly $120 billion. That sounds like a lot of money, but the total amount of insured deposits in the U.S. banking system is over $9 trillion. Do the division. They have less than 1.5 cents for every dollar they insure. Simply put, if one or two small banks fail, the insurance works, they can print the difference. But if we have a systemic crisis, if 5 major banks wobble at the same time, the insurance fund is a drop of water in a forest fire. It is mathematically impossible for them to cover everyone. The full faith and credit of the government is a check that the Treasury cannot cash without hyperinflating the currency to zero. So what happens when the insurance runs out? They don't do a bailout anymore. Bailouts are unpopular. Taxpayers hate them. Politicians lose elections over them. So they invented a new tool. It is called a bail-in. This was codified in the Dodd-Frank Act of 2010 and replicated by the G20 nations globally. In a bail-in, the bank doesn't ask the government for money. It takes the money from its creditors. And remember who the creditors are. You, the depositor. In simple words, the bank can legally take a portion of your deposits and convert them into equity in the bank. You go to sleep with $50,000 in your savings account. You wake up with $20,000 in cash and $30,000 worth of bank stock in a failing bank that is rapidly going to zero. They don't steal your money. They recapitalize the institution with your savings. This happened in Cyprus in 2013. People lost nearly half of their savings overnight. It wasn't a robbery, it was the law. And the legal framework for this exists right now in the United States, Europe, and Canada. The living wills of these megabanks explicitly list your deposits as a source of recapitalization. The trap is already set. They are just waiting for the crisis to spring it. But the trap isn't just about the catastrophic collapse. That is the violent end. The daily reality of the banking trap is much more subtle. It is the slow, grinding theft of financial repression. In our parlance, this is when the government deliberately holds interest rates below the rate of inflation to liquidate debt. Let's say the bank pays you 4% interest. You feel smart. You are making money. But real inflation, the cost of food, energy, housing, and insurance, is running at 8%. Your real return is negative 4%. You are bleeding to death, but the doctor is telling you that you are healthy because the number in your account is going up. This is the nominal confusion we talked about before.
The bank is using your capital to fund the government's debt and paying you back in a currency that buys less than it did when you deposited it. You are the battery powering the system, and the system is draining you dry. And now we face the final evolution of the trap, the war on cash. Why do banks and governments hate physical cash? Because it is the only form of money you can hold outside the digital dragnet. If you have a $100 bill in your pocket, you are the bank. No one can turn it off. No one can track it. No one can charge you a negative interest rate on it. But if that money is digital, you are trapped in the panopticon. We are moving rapidly towards CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. Simply put, this is programmable money. The government could decide that your money expires if you don't spend it within 30 days to stimulate the economy. They could decide that your money only works for certain products or within a certain radius of your home. This is not science fiction. The technology is being piloted right now. When physical cash is eliminated, the banking trap snaps shut permanently. You will have no exit.
You will have no alternative. You will be fully immersed in a system where your ability to transact is a privilege granted by the state, not a right. So why does nobody tell you this? Why does your financial advisor, the man in the sharp suit with the firm handshake, tell you to keep 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account? Because the entire financial industry is built on an extraction model rooted in fees. They make money when your money is trapped in their ecosystem. They make 0% when you hold physical gold in a private safe. They make 0% when you hold Bitcoin in self-custody. They make 0% when you own a rental property that pays you direct cash flow. The advice you are getting is conflicted at its core. It is designed to maximize their assets under management, not your financial sovereignty. They are incentivized to keep you inside the enclosure, grazing on a yield that doesn't even keep up with the cost of living. They operate under the fiduciary illusion, claiming to act in your best interest while shackling you to instruments that bleed value slowly enough that you don't notice the wound until it is fatal. We have to look at the psychology of the saver. You were raised to believe that saving is a virtue. A penny saved is a penny earned. That was true under a gold standard. Under a fiat standard, a penny saved is a penny debased. The saver is the loser. The debtor is the winner. The person who borrows money to buy assets, using the bank's fake money to buy real things, wins because the debt gets inflated away while the asset appreciates. The person who saves cash loses because the cash gets inflated away while the purchasing power vanishes into thin air. It is a complete inversion of moral logic. The prudent are punished. The reckless are rewarded. This is the Cantillon effect in action. In our parlance, this means the closer you are to the money printer, the richer you get. The banks and hedge funds get the new money first, buying assets at yesterday's prices. By the time that money trickles down to your paycheck, prices have already risen to absorb it. You are paying the inflation tax for their bailout. The further away you are, and the salary earner with a savings account is the furthest away possible, the more you pay for the inflation. So what is the solution? How do we escape a trap that encompasses the entire monetary system? We have to redefine what money is. We have to stop storing our life energy in the medium of exchange. You use dollars to transact. You do not use dollars to store wealth. You need to become your own central bank. This means taking possession of bearer assets. In simple words, a bearer asset is something you own that has no counterparty risk. If you hold a gold coin, you own it. You don't need a bank to promise to pay you. The value is in the metal. It is immutable. If you hold Bitcoin in a cold wallet, you own it. You don't need a server at a bank to confirm your balance. The math confirms it.
There is no CEO of gold. There is no board of directors for Bitcoin. There is only the asset and the owner. You need to look at real assets, land, commodities, things that cannot be printed. When the bank runs happen, and they will happen, the person holding the paper claim to the asset will be left in court for 10 years fighting over scraps. The person holding the asset itself will be fine. This is the critical difference between paper claims and physical reality. A warehouse receipt for copper is worthless if the warehouse is empty. In a crisis, paper burns, but the commodity remains. Possession is not 9/10 of the law. In a financial collapse, possession is 10/10 of the law. You must eliminate the middleman between you and your wealth. You need to structure your life to be bank resilient. This means having multiple accounts at different institutions, preferably including credit unions, which are less exposed to the derivative casino than the major banks. It means keeping a supply of physical cash on hand, enough to survive for a month if the digital grid goes down or the bank declares a holiday. A bank holiday is the polite term for "we lost your money, and we are closing the doors so you can't ask for it." It happened in 1933. It happened in 2020. It will happen again. When the gate drops, it happens without warning. You swipe your card for gas and it declines. You check your app and it spins. You are locked out of your own life. But the most important shift is mental. You have to stop looking at the bank as a vault. Look at it as a utility company. You use the electric company to keep the lights on, but you don't store your electricity there. You use the bank to pay your bills, to receive your salary, to swipe your card, but you move the surplus out immediately. You sweep your excess capital into assets that you control. You treat the bank balance as a working capital account, never a savings account. Savings belong in assets. Working capital belongs in the bank. Knowing the difference is what saves you when the music stops. We are entering a period of unprecedented volatility. The death cycle is turning. The sovereign debt crisis is looming. The only way the governments can pay their bills is to print money or confiscate wealth. They will do both. This is the debt-death spiral. In simple words, the math is broken. They cannot tax enough to cover the interest, so they must print. It is not a policy choice, it is arithmetic destiny. They will inflate the currency to pay off the bonds, and they will bail in the banks to save the system. You are the collateral damage in their war for survival. You are the fuel they burn to keep the engine running. Do not volunteer to be a casualty. The men in 1933 who stood in line to hand over their gold thought they were being good citizens. They thought the government would protect them. They woke up the next day 40% poorer. The men who saw the trap, who understood the nature of money, who moved into tangible assets, they preserved their family's wealth for generations. The warning signs are flashing red. The reserve requirement is 0. The insurance fund is empty. The laws are written. The trap is open. You have two choices. You can keep walking blindly into the machine, hoping it won't snap shut on your leg, or you can step off the path. You can take custody. You can take responsibility. You can own what is yours. The bank is not your friend. The bank is a business that is leveraging your life savings at 100 to 1. It works until it doesn't. And when it doesn't, do not expect a refund. Expect a letter telling you that your deposit has been converted into equity. Expect a new definition of freedom that looks a lot like poverty. The choice is yours. It always has been, but the window is closing. Get your money out of the casino. Buy things that are real, and never, ever let someone else hold the keys to your future.